So I begin with a prayer. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Pada Padme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Devotees of this wonderful center in Atlanta, this is a special privilege for me to visit a center about which I had heard, particularly because it was associated with the hallowed memory of Swami Yogeshananji, whom we respect very much, because his famous book, Six Lighted Windows, one of the Swamis about whom he has written is Swami Ghanananda, was the founder of our center in London in 1948. And Revered Swami Yogeshananji also stayed in our London center, which was at that time at Holland Park. And he did some research uh, about Swami Vivekananda's 3 visits. I think he was uh, visiting all the libraries for all the facts about Swamiji's very significant visit and stay for almost 300 days in the United Kingdom. And all of you know, some of his very great disciples, Sister Nivedita Goodwin, without whom we would not have had his complete works. J. Goodwin, who, of course, Swami came in contact with Swami Vivekananda in America, in New York, for the first time. But he's an Englishman, he's born in England. And then we had the famous Savior family, Mother Savior, that is, and Captain and Mrs. Savior, who built the first Advaitic monastery in the Himalayas, that is Mayavati. And it was a wonderful life of sacrifice. They sold their house in London, huge mansion, and used all that money to build up the Mayavati Advaita Ashrama, a beautiful ashrama, a dream of Swami Vivekananda, where he wanted to unite the people of the West and the East through the philosophy of Advaita. So that was his dream project, and it was Captain Savior and Mrs. Savior, who is also known as the mother of Mayavati, who helped him realize his dream. So there are wonderful associations of United Kingdom. Many of his disciples, Edward Sturdy, who first invited him, and then Henrietta Muller, who donated money for buying the Belur Math land, the headquarters of the Ramakrishna Mission. So a lot of things have happened after America, his 3 visits to United Kingdom. So just as for all Americans, the places associated with Swami Vivekananda, he crisscrossed the whole continent in those days, traveling by train and visiting almost many parts of the country. And most of his lectures were delivered in America. But a significant portion of the talks that he delivered, and thanks to Goodwin, who was a shorthand, who was actually took down his notes. He was excellent. He knew shorthand and he could, I mean, record about 200 words per minute in shorthand. So because of him, we have the famous talks on the Jnana Yoga, which he delivered in mostly all the talks except one talk which he delivered in New York were delivered in London. So London was the place where he not only delivered the talks on Jnana Yoga, but also printed or published the first book which he himself wrote. All the others were collection of his lectures which were recorded by Goodwin and others. Whereas the book Raj Yoga was dictated by him. Alan Waldo was the one who took down uh, what he spoke, and he wanted to leave behind a concrete philosophy of Raj Yoga or Patanjali's yoga, which he named as Raj Yoga. That book was also first published uh, in London. So these four yogas, the rest of the other two yogas, Bhakti Yoga, were some lectures he delivered in America, and then we have the Karma Yoga lectures which he delivered in New York, a series of lectures which have now been compiled. So these four yogas, as you might have all guessed, are the four pathways. The four yogas are the four pathways to freedom, as explained by Swami Vivekananda. And he wanted a synthesis of all these four yogas. You see, according to the Bhagavad Gita, there are several yogas. In fact, anything that unites you with the ultimate reality or God is a yoga. Yoga means to join, yuj. It has come from the Sanskrit root yuj, to join. To what do we join? We join the individual jiva with the Paramatma or the Godhead. So that process is known as yoga in simple terms. But why four yogas? In fact, Bhagavad Gita speaks, each chapter according to the Bhagavad Gita is a yoga. If you see at the end of every chapter, even Vishada Yoga, the first chapter, which deals with the depression which Arjuna had at the beginning of the war, with the mere thought of killing his relative. He was in a predicament and he didn't know whether he should fight the war, though he had come prepared for the war. So there was a lot of conflict in his mind. So even conflict which we face in our life can be a yoga according to the Gita. So that's why they say Vishada Yoga. So there can be infinite number of pathways to freedom, but each of one of them can be a yoga. But here we speak specifically of four pathways. Why has Swami Vivekananda classified yoga into four? And why did he want a harmony of all these four paths? There, as I said, there can be many yogas, but why these four pathways? Now there is a psychological reason behind why he classified them as the four yogas. And you see the monogram, the symbol of Ramakrishna Mission, also depicts these four yogas. You see the snake and encircling a ocean, which represents Karma Yoga. And then we have the lotus, beautiful lotus, which symbolizes Bhakti Yoga, devotion, the lotus of the heart. And then we have sun, which symbolizes Jnana Yoga. So Swami Vivekananda's idea was each yoga individually is capable, you can take you to freedom. But because our minds are psychologically so constituted that they have four basic elements. That's why we have four yogas. Now let us see what are these four pathways or what are these four elements or four aspects of the human mind. So it's a very sound psychological approach, psychological as well as scientific approach to the philosophy or the practice of religion or spirituality, which we are dealing with when we are dealing with these four yogas. So let us see what are the four basic faculties of the mind. According to Western psychology, we have three basic faculties. Everyone knows about thinking, feeling, and willpower. So every human being, no matter which country belongs to, which ethnicity, has a mind which has the capacity to think, analyze, rationalize. It has the capacity to feel, emotionalize. So we have that feeling, which is part of human personality or the human mind. And then we have a faculty of the mind, which is known as willpower. Willpower is something that translates our ideas into action. So you say you may have wonderful resolution, you can make wonderful resolutions, but then to put them into practice, to convert them into concrete action, you need what is known as willpower. So people with highly developed wills are intensely active. They just don't think. Otherwise, there is a class of people who are predominantly thinkers. They can think, even talk. But when it comes to practice, converting those thoughts into concrete actions, trying to practical, trying to find a practical expression to those intellectual thoughts, they find it difficult because they lack the willpower. So one of the important faculties of the mind is the capacity to exert our willpower and convert our thoughts into concrete actions. So that is one faculty which Swami Vivekananda said, which gives rise to a yoga known as Karma Yoga. So we have these three faculties: thinking, rationalizing things, philosophizing in an academic way, trying to think. That is Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga gives you a broad theoretical framework of what Vedanta is, what religion is, what spirituality is. But still, you need feeling. You need to use your emotions, the emotional faculty, to love that philosophy so that you can put it into practice. So, Bhakti Yoga helps you. Maybe you need some forms, some concrete forms. So, you transmute that human emotion, human love, the love you have for your father, your mother. So, you consider God as a father in heaven or as a mother who is a divine mother. And you use the same emotion you use towards your mother or towards your father or towards your child. And these emotions, when they are directed towards the Lord in those different forms, Lord as the Father in heaven, as the Christians would like to address him as, or the Divine Mother, as Hindus very often, the Shakti worshippers, they would like to consider God as their mother. Said, why father? Why not mother? So that human emotion also can be used to have developed bhakti. When it is directed towards human being, it is love, human love. If it is, or human emotion, if it is directed towards the Lord, it becomes bhakti towards the Lord. So that is the second faculty of the human mind, which is emotion, which every human being has. Some people have less, some people are more emotional, some people are less emotional, some people are more inclined to think and rationalize things, and they want explanation for everything. Even if you say there is, you have to believe in a particular God, they said belief is not my cup of tea. I want concrete evidence. I want to think. Can you prove to me what God is, what Godhood is, what spirituality is? I am a thinking person. I want to rationalize. I want to use my reason to accept before accepting anything as true. So, a scientific approach to religion or to the study of one's own mind, which has this faculty, would involve proposing an hypothesis, but trying to experimentally verify it so that it becomes a theory which nobody can refute, and it should be applicable to all. It should be universal, just as science is universal. Newton's gravitation or Einstein's theory, they are valid not only for Indians, it's valid for everyone. They may be uh, discovered by a particular person belonging to a particular country or a geographical location, but they are universal truths. So, yoga has to be universal if it has to be accepted by everyone, every human being. That is what Swami Vivekananda believed. So, he believed that if religion or spirituality is based on concrete scientific principles, just as people were swearing by science when he went to England and when he came to America, also, you'll find everywhere there were atheists who were swearing by science They were tired of the dogmatic religion. And there were a lot of clash between religion as it was practiced and the scientific community. They wanted everything to be established on the basis of science. So, if science can explain everything, we don't need to have a hypothesis of God. So, Richard Dawkins, who's still uh, very popular in England, wrote a book, The God Delusion. In fact, he said God, the idea of God itself is a delusion. Because if science explains everything, or at least is attempting to explain everything, there's a cause and effect theory in science, then why do we need to even have this concept of God? It's just a delusion which the sooner it vanishes. So he wrote a book and he has many followers even today. But in answer to that, another Cambridge biologist, genetic scientist, wrote another book which is very interesting. You should read that book. He said the science delusion. So it's not that science doesn't have delusions. They are still uh, confused about many things. We have hardly discovered a very little of what this great universe is all about. Those scientists are trying every other day, the one theory has been discarded and something new comes in its place. Every time we are searching for truth. No doubt it's a search for truth as we do it in spirituality. Science also is a search for truth. But we should have the courage to reject something if it is proved to be wrong. So the scientific spirit is wonderful. So just as there is this God delusion or delusions in the field of religion or spirituality, there are delusions in the field of what we call as science. So the Cambridge physicist Rupert Sheldrake, that's the name. Rupert Sheldrake wrote a book which he named just to counter Richard Dawkins, who is also from Oxford. He's also from England. So he said, yes, the science delusion was a counter to this book, which was God delusion, the God delusion. So anyway, scientific approach or a scientific spirit is necessary both for physical and other sciences, theoretical sciences, as well as the science of spirituality, because it involves the science of the mind. So that is why Swami Vivekananda gave three yogas we can explain by the three powers of the mind. Power to think gives Jnana Yoga, power to emotionalize gives Bhakti Yoga, and the power to will gives Karma Yoga. Then what about this Raj Yoga? Why did Swami Vivekananda give this name Raj Yoga? He could have, it is actually Patanjali's yoga. He wrote a commentary on Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, which is a very old system of India, which was codified by Patanjali. It's not that Patanjali discovered this. This philosophy was there. Even Buddha's philosophy is somewhat similar to this Raj Yoga, his ideas of meditation. So, but Swami Vivekananda called it Raj Yoga for a different reason. He said it is the king of all yogas. It's the most superior because he says psychology is the king of all sciences. All sciences are wonderful. Physical sciences, quantum science, physics, mathematics, everything is as a science. They are all wonderful. They have led to wonderful discoveries, helping mankind a lot, medical sciences. But why is mental science or psychology considered to be the king of all sciences? Because mind is our window to the whole world. The external world and the internal world, spiritual world, are connected by mind. Mind is a layer which connects both sides. It connects us to the physical world. All the sensory inputs we get through our sense organs are presented to the mind, and the mind reacts in a particular way. If it reacts in a scientific and an informed way, we say it is a scientific approach to any science or any spirituality also. But the very study of the study of the mind that is a window to the world, is known as psychology. And that psychology, whether it is spiritual psychology or clinical psychology to deal with diseases, mental disorders. There are many forms of psychology. But anyway, all deal with the very important subject, which is our mind studying itself. See, mind studying the world, the objective world, through thought is Jnana Yoga or reality. Mind studying the idea of God with form, without form, with devotion, with emotion is Bhakti Yoga. And approaching God or approaching the whole creation with loving service, trying to serve human beings, trying to serve the planet, trying to serve nature, all these things form part of Karma Yoga, using our willpower, using our power to act, act upon our thought. But the very faculty of the mind, if we focus on what that mind is and try to analyze that mind in a very scientific way, the very mind with which we study this whole universe and our relationship to that universe, that mind itself needs a study. And that study is very difficult because you don't have external instruments. It's only through your higher mind you can study your own mind. So we have to develop a higher mind. That is what Raj Yoga says. Raj Yoga says when you focus on your thoughts, try to reduce them through a system of system in a systematic way, which is known as Ashtanga Yoga, eighth step, eight limbs. Eight limbs means eight. Literally, it means Ashtanga means eight limbs, but it is eight stages how you deal with the mind, refine it, and create a faculty which is known as intuition. And you study your own mind with that. You study your lower mind, the reactive mind. How does my mind react? Why does it get angry? Why do some people get angry? Why do some people don't get angry? The same situation, people react in different ways. So, how do thoughts come? From where do they come? How do we react to external circumstances? Some people get disturbed. At the least disturbance, they get irritated, agitated, and others are very calm. So, how do you account for this difference in reaction? The mind may be the same, the situation may be the same. Mind is not the same, situation may be the same. But a higher intuition or a higher mind can be developed, which is known as buddhi, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which studies the mind itself. And one part of the mind, the higher part of the mind, studies the lower part, lower mind, and sees the thoughts jumping about, reacting in different ways. And then we understand why we think the way we do. In fact, Buddha gave so much importance to control of the mind in his spiritual disciplines. He says, he said, a famous line, as you think, so you become. So all our actions, whatever we do, has its origin in thought. Where do these thoughts come from? That was the subject of Buddha study, which is also Raj Yoga. What Patanjali says, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga means Raj Yoga, or Patanjali's yoga is calming down the mind, reducing the thoughts of the mind, and trying to meditate so that you can study the mind itself and find out why our thoughts arise without any sort of control. We don't want to get angry, but we still, certain situations make us angry. Then we regret. Oh, why did I get angry? I should not have. There was no reason for me to get angry. But we were helpless because some thoughts from the subconscious just came and then we reacted and then we regret. So can we not control those thoughts? So Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the first, second sutra of Patanjali's yoga, which is known as Raj Yoga, by very nicely commented upon by Swami Vivekananda. He says this is the king of yogas because if you control your thoughts, you can control everything else. So Raj Yoga is the fourth faculty of the mind, which is restraining the power that you generate by restraining the mind. So, though Western psychology just mentions three forces of the mind, one is the power to think, power to feel, power to will. Eastern psychology or yoga psychology says there is another aspect of the mind which you cannot ignore. That is the power that is generated by control of the mind. So, that is also a power of the mind which explores or which unravels the higher faculty of the mind, which is known as buddhi. So he says through a process known as Raj Yoga, we try to develop that intuitive faculty, which, to put in simple English uh, words, we can say the choice making capacity. Buddhi means the capacity to make the right choice at the right time in life. It seems to be a very simple thing. But you see, what we are today is because of the right choices we made or wrong choices we made. You cannot undo many things because of the wrong choice. One wrong choice leads you to some place where you cannot retract yourself. So, choice making is very important in everyone's life. Every choice, every single choice, every moment we are making choices. Whether we should drink tea or not to drink tea, whether we should smoke or not to smoke. The choice is ours. We make choices all the time. If the majority of the choices are right, we we end up becoming spiritual people. If we make wrong choices all our life, then our life will be misery. Will be a misery. So Swami, this Patanjali's yoga says this buddhi, which tells you what to do, what not to do. This is known as viveka or discrimination, the capacity to make intelligent choices so that you be free, free from the clutches of nature, not just be at the mercy of nature. That is the goal of all yogas, karma yoga, jnana yoga. So you use all the four faculties. So the fourth faculty, which Indian psychology introduced, was the capacity to first control the mind, watch it, and then see how you can train it to take a well informed and choices or well informed decisions to make the right choices at the right time. This capacity is not so easy. I mean, it's not so easily acquired. That is why, as part of our ancient Indian education, if you see, one of the most important mantras, I think all of you know, is the Gayatri mantra. Have you heard of the Gayatri mantra? Om Bhurgosva Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya. It was considered to be such an important mantra in the Rig Veda. The essence of all Vedas, Thakur Sri Ramakrishna says, the essence of the Vedas is the Gayatri. The essence of Gayatri is Om. So, what does this Gayatri mantra do, or what does it signify or symbolize? And mind you, this Gayatri mantra was part of our education system in the Gurukulas. Every child, mind you, every child, not boy. Unfortunately, I don't know how it ended up the Yagnopavita or the thread ceremony, they call it. It's given only Hinduism restricted it to boys. And the age was 6 to 8. Between 6 and 8, the ritual had to be performed, and the child was supposed to, along with his secular education, he was supposed to get the Gayatri mantra, which gives him a opportunity to develop his higher mind, buddhi, along with the lower mind, that is intelligence. His academic excellence, the skill sets that he will develop, which will make him a useful person, earn a living, become a scientist, engineer, whatever he wants, he can become. But at the same time, at the age of 6, between 6 and 8, he was also given the Gayatri Mantra, which trained him to develop in wisdom as much as in intelligence. Wisdom to decide what is right, what is wrong. So when he grows up, he acquires a lot of skills, but he knows where to use the skill and why to use the skill. Where should he use it so that he can become happy and not be a cause for misery for himself and his family and others. And this was given to not only boys but also girls. I don't know in Hindu in the Hindu system or Hindu tradition, somehow this gender bias was there, and somehow it was given only to boys. Girls were deprived of this basic mantra, Gayatri mantra. It has to be recited by boys and girls. Yagno Pavita is to be given to the child when he comes to that age. 6 to 8 is the age where he starts thinking and making choices. So he has to be trained. So a boy as well as a girl has to be given this prayer which says, "Oh Lord," I mean, the prayer says, praying to the Sun Lord, illumine my mind so that I develop this viveka, this discrimination. So if I don't have that knowledge, all the skills that I acquire can be misused. If I don't know how to use them, when to use them. I have to be a wise person as well as an intelligent person. Intelligent person who is not wise can cause havoc in society. So this Gayatri mantra or this idea of developing the higher mind, which is the field, which is what Raj Yoga does, was given to a child. So naturally, along with his academic excellence, he develops wisdom, and by the time he is using his secular knowledge, he will be a spiritual person. So the four yogas, these four faculties of the mind, are the four pathways. So we know all about these four yogas. There are wonderful books by Swami Vivekananda. Each yoga is explained very nicely. I'll not go into the details. But why do we need harmony? That is the question. Why did Swami Vivekananda draw that diagram where he says Raj Yoga, which is the main yoga, the power of meditation, the power of developing this intuition by meditating, by controlling thoughts, will control the other three yogas, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. It can control your emotions. If the mind is uncontrolled, then you cannot control your emotions. If the mind is not controlled, you cannot control your logical thinking, analytical thinking. And if your mind is not controlled, nobody can control your actions. Your actions will not be under your control. So, all the willpower, the power to think, and the power to feel, all have to be harmoniously developed through the harmony of these four yogas, according to Swami Vivekananda. So he called it the synthesis of all four yogas. So these four pathways, though they can be independent pathways, Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda believed all these pathways converge to one point with the help of Raj Yoga. That is why that encircling serpent, which represents Kundalini, which is a symbol for Raj Yoga, it tries to combine all the three yogas by the power of meditation. So meditation becomes very important in harmonizing these yogas. That is why Swami Vivekananda left behind this wonderful book, uh, which is his greatest contribution, you can say. It was published in London in 1897. Every one of you should read this wonderful book, The Raj Yoga, because every word was dictated by him. Miss Waldo would sit. In those days, they did not have fountain pen. So it seems she used some nib which had to be dipped in the ink pot. And Swamiji would meditate for sometimes for several hours. He would not dictate anything. He would go into deep meditation. Then suddenly some truth would be revealed to him and he would speak something. So this lady had to always sit there because anytime the words may come out of his mouth. So it was a book written under, I mean, with a lot of meditation and spiritual inspiration. That famous pose of Swami Vivekananda, which you see here, this photograph was uh, taken when he's speaking about Raj Yoga on meditation in London. He went into a deep state. He just stopped giving a talk. He was giving a talk and he just stopped. And that famous pose you can see, meditative pose. So some cameraman had the wisdom to immediately click a photograph. That is how we have this photo. He was actually speaking on Raj Yoga. the yoga of meditation, when he himself went into deep meditation. See the deep meditative pose. It reminds you of Buddha, isn't it? It's a, Buddha also is seen, the pose of Vivekananda. So this was in that state, he used to sit for meditation and whatever came to his mind. So everyone, it's a very inspired book. Everything has been discussed in a very scientific way, the science of the mind, and it is very essential to read that book to even understand how to practice Jnana Yoga, how to practice Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti is not just an emotional attachment to the Lord. It can be blind faith to begin with. Faith, as I said, we believe in certain personal God. We have some liking or relationship with a God. Some kind of human relationship is also fine. God the Father, Sri Ram Krishna is my Father, or Christ is my Father, or the Father in heaven. Whatever relationship you have to for that devotion to deepen, you need a scientific approach. You can't just be blindly emotional. Emotions, when they are directed towards God, they get refined. And that is how bhakti develops. Then you understand the God with form, the Satchidananda, has come in that form. He can come in any form. He can come as Christ, he can come as Buddha, he can come as any form that you like. That is why in Hinduism there are millions of gods. You can worship him as Ganesha, you can worship him as Shiva. That doesn't prevent you from worshipping other gods because it's the same Satchidananda. Swami Vivekananda used to say, if there is a house, it may have several doors. There may be a front door, there may be a back door, and the infinite sky is around you. Now you are somehow imprisoned in that house and you are desperate to get out of that house. So you may get out of the back door, you may get out of the front door. Anyway, you are going to enter that deep, that wonderful infinite space outside. That is your goal. It doesn't matter which door, or maybe you can jump out of the window also. But anyway, your purpose is served if so. These forms on whom we meditate, they are like these windows or doors. They give you an opportunity to reach the infinite, the formless, because this was the question asked to Sri Ramakrishna in the gospel. Because in those days, everybody was criticizing idol worship, especially the Brahmos. They used to say, this is superstition. How can you worship an idol? How can you worship an image? So Sri Ramakrishna said, why not? You can worship him with image, with form, without form, with qualities. There's so many concepts of Godhead. You don't have to be narrow, just be broad in your approach. But know for certain that the God with form is a window for you to approach that infinite which you cannot conceptualize in the mind. We may say we believe in a formless God or a God without form, infinite. Infinite appeals to us, but what is our concept of infinite? Our minds are restricting anything that we think. We may think it is universal, but still it is limited. The moment we talk of ourselves, we either identify ourselves with so many tags or so many adjectives like I'm an American, is an Englishman, or an Indian, or a dark or white skinned. So many adjectives come, and we identify our identification is with these forms, this color, this race, racial characteristics. They all come to our mind in spite of ourselves trying to be unlimited or universal. No matter how universal our minds try to be, somehow all our education, all our likes and dislikes that we have acquired over several lifetimes, they come and make us limited. So Bhakti Yoga says, if that is the case, if your mind cannot think of the unlimited, think that that unlimited being or the unlimited form, formless aspect, has assumed a concrete form for my sake. Now, Swami Sri Ramakrishna gave a beautiful example, and I'll conclude with that, then we can have some question answers. So, Sri Ramakrishna said, while explaining how can God be with form and without form. He says, take the ocean for example. It's water, water everywhere. But under the influence of cold, in some places the water becomes iceberg, becomes like an iceberg, and it becomes an iceberg. So the icebergs have form. But as soon as the sun shines and there is heat, it again melts into the ocean. But he says, in some places, Sri Ramakrishna had never visited the Antarctica or the Arctic, the pole. He was in Calcutta all his life. But he said, I have heard, he had heard from from teachers that there are places where the ice never melts. So he tried to explain using this example. He said, a person who always believes in form, particular form, that my God is always with form. He is the eternal Krishna, he is the eternal resident of Vaikuntha, or my Father in heaven, whatever form he has, he always is stays in heaven. So that idea of God, the eternal form, is like the iceberg which never melts. So he says you have to make allowance for that also. If it believes that the iceberg, let it remain the iceberg. It's still the water. The same Sachidananda has become that iceberg. The same water of the ocean, the vast ocean, has taken a form because of the cold. And when the sun of knowledge shines upon it, it melts and you get the formless. So that is how the four yogas, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, they're complementary. They're not, uh, some people think, I like Jnana Yoga, I like Raj Yoga, I like Bhakti Yoga. I'm not a devotional person. That's not the case. Our minds are constituted in such a way that we have emotions, we have a thinking capacity, we have the capacity to will and act, and so do we have the capacity to sit quiet and control our thoughts. So this solitude, which Sri Ramakrishna insisted upon, he said spiritual life begins with solitude. He said, I don't consider a human being if he doesn't love solitude. You see, in England, when I first went, I was surprised to see there is a ministry for loneliness. Do you know? There is a ministry for economics, there is a ministry for defense, but I've never heard of a country which has a ministry for loneliness, because loneliness is a very big issue for old people. Whereas Vedanta says loneliness is the only thing that will make you spiritual. So if you convert this loneliness into solitude, then it's a blessing in disguise. Why do you always need company? Sri Ramakrishna himself said, such a crowd used to come to meet him in Dakshineshwar. Sometimes he would just disappear, go into the Panchavati. And his nephew Hriday used to search for him. Where is Mama? Where is my uncle gone? Because he would go into the deep forest. He said, I was tired of people. Why do I have to mix with people again and again? Swami Vivekananda, after giving so many famous talks in America, suddenly you know what happened? Thousand Island Park. He decided to take only 12 disciples, and he says mixing of too much with this crowds has destroyed my spirituality. Vivekananda says this, such a great leader. He said mixing with thousands of, he uses some harsh words, mixing with thousands of human animal has destroyed, not destroyed, has reduced my spirituality. So I'm longing to go away. So he took 12 disciples. You have seen Thousand Island Park, border of Canada and America. It's a beautiful place. I have not been there. One day I wish I should go there. So 12 disciples, selected disciples. He says solitude is the beginning of religion. Sri Ramakrishna in the gospel says, no matter how busy you are, you should have some time for yourself. Some time of the day, may not be days together, but at least some part of the day where you are alone. You can meditate. Otherwise, what's the how can you acquire spirituality? So in Raj Yoga, he mentions this, that first to have To control the mind, first you need a calm environment where you can, for some time, sit quietly and allow the mind to settle down. Then you can control the mind. Then you can do Raj Yoga or whatever yoga you want to do. So Swami Vivekananda said Raj Yoga and the other yogas, if they are practiced together, it can lead you to freedom. So that these are the four pathways of freedom. So to the extent we can do this or understand this, we don't need to read big volumes. These four volumes are more than enough. Fortunately, I've seen every country I've gone in, Portuguese, everywhere, these four yogas are translated. Spanish, it is available. Every language, the first books to be translated is either the gospel or these four yogas. Your four yogas are very popular. Everybody likes to read about it. So these four yogas, harmony of four yogas, the four pathways, which is a very scientific way of analyzing our own minds, four faculties of the mind, leads to a balanced personality and ultimately to freedom. Thank you. So if there are some questions, you can ask if there is time. We are almost 7:30. Huh? I don't think.
Question from here.
Oh,
Maharaj, you said the will is one of the things, but most of these books they say you don't have a free will. Especially, of course, that is in the Paramarthika level, only you have a free will.
yeah, free will. You see, this concept was Sri Krishna answered this. The free will comes in context of your relationship to the world. It's not that whether an individual has a free will or not, or God's will and destiny. So people say it is destiny. Some people say no, you are the makers of your own destiny. Vivekananda gave a very beautiful talk in California, in San Francisco. One of his famous lectures is Man, the Maker of His Own Destiny. It was a lecture which was added later. It was discovered by Swami Ashokananda, who came across a talk where there is a beautiful talk, Man, the Maker of His Own Destiny. So that was the question now, because the Western world, or especially the atheists, believe that we can create our destiny, and that's true also. So man has a will, but how far is it subservient to the divine will? Now, that is the question. So Sri Krishna gives a beautiful answer. He says there is a cow, it is tied to a post with a rope. That is the example he gives in the gospel. Now that rope is say 10 meters long, and the cow has the freedom. It can eat at its will and eat whatever grass is there within the radius of 10 meters around the pole. But he says, Thakur gives this wonderful example. He says, after the cow is done with all the grass that is in this 10 meters, it will cry. And then God will say, okay, I'll just release 5 more meters. Now you enjoy some more grass. So it is both. Within the limitations of the mind body, our will is free. If it were not to be free, then you would have blamed God for everything. Now, God has given you a free will, 10 meters free will. Said, now you think, because of that free will, we are taking the whole responsibility. Otherwise, there will be total self-surrender. If God did not give you free will, you will do nothing. You will not even book the tickets. Let God book the ticket. I will not go. I will not study. I will not go to school. Sri Krishna could do that. He said, I am not going to school. I am not going to earn money. But how many of us can do? We cannot do. We have a willpower. No, I have to study. I have to get a job. I have to follow this career, that career. So the will is there. Both free will is there up to a certain limit. But after that, you realize that it is the divine will that prevails.
Swami, the same example, remembering Swami Yogeshananda, he gave a talk on the same topic. And he gave the same example, and then he said that we do the opposite, that sometimes we'll go around and we'll just wind the
Rope.
rope and reduce the wheel, and then we just get stuck.
Stuck.
We do that with our own actions also.
Yeah, that is true. We reduce our scope of our will.
Just like the wrong options we do.
Yeah, wrong options. So all the wonderful wisdom you can get in the gospel. Don't have to read philosophy.
Swamiji, may I?
Our previous President Maharaj, 15th President Maharaj, Swami Smarananandji, was once invited by a university in Turkey. It's the first time he's going to Turkey, so he was wondering what should I speak. Learned professors will be there. So he asked some of the monks to write some nice articles so that he can read about Islam and comparative religions and a lot of philosophy. He told us himself. Said then they all prepared so many sheets they gave me. He said, Maharaj, this will be very useful for you because university professors will ask you so many questions. When he started reading, he got confused. So he said, I was disgusted, left all the papers behind, just took one book with me, Tales and Parables of Sri Ramakrishna. And with that book, he managed all the university talks and it was a great success. So we don't need, the more complicated a paper, the less you understand. Academicians. Yes, there's a question?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Namaste.
No, you can read if she has typed.
No, she hasn't typed. She's trying to say it.
I want to understand what I want
Okay.
to understand what Swami Vivekananda. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please.
Thank you. Could you please expand on what Swami Vivekananda mean when he said that though I am a jnani, at heart I am a bhakta. So
Yes.
could you expand on that, please?
Yes, yes. It's a very good question. He said one more thing after this. He said Sri Krishna was all bhakti outside and jnana inside. Whereas I am all jnana outside. To the world, I am a jnani, but basically I am full of feeling. He was trying to control his emotions. His bhakti towards Ramakrishna, it is unparalleled. He wrote some beautiful verses about his master, but he never revealed his bhakti. He was trying to hide because the bhakti was so much that it would have caused embarrassment or it would have overflowed. So he said, I am bhakti inside, but I cover it with the covering of jnana, dry knowledge, so that it is not very clear. Even Shankaracharya, for example, one who was a great jnani, apparently was not emotional. He was not a bhakta. But how many compositions he made on Devi?
Yeah,
So
Bhaja Govindam. Yeah.
Bhaja Govindam, so many Govinda, and then so many he wrote. So he was all bhakti within. Most of the jnanis, that is why Swami Vivekananda spoke of harmony of yogas. You have the capacity to feel, you have to use it, but you don't. You predominantly behave as if you are a jnani, or as Sri Krishna did, he was always in a divine mood of bhakti, bhakti towards the mother, bhakti towards Krishna, bhakti towards different forms. But when it came to speaking, he was full of jnana. You see the gospel, it is full of knowledge.
Yes.
So that is how harmony of yogas were seen in both Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, as well as Holy Mother. Holy Mother was so full of devotion, but she never expressed it. Outwardly, she appeared as if she is a Jnani. At least Sri Ramakrishna sang songs of devotion. Swami Vivekananda also sang. But you'll hardly see Holy Mother singing any bhajans or songs. She was so calm and like a Sthita Prajna, like a Gyani outside.
Mhm.
But even she sometimes used to tell Yoginma and others to sing some devotional songs.
Mhm.
So
Thank
that
you.
is the meaning. Yeah.
Thank you.
Swamiji, thank you
Yes.
for wonderful talk.
Yes.
You talked about Gayatri Mantra. So Gayatri Mantra will belong to what, Bhakti Yoga, or which yoga will it be?
Gayatri Mantra is a combination of all yogas. You see, for example, Bhur Bhuvaswa Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. So it's a prayer.
Yeah.
It's more of a prayer. You are praying to the sun who symbolizes knowledge. So you are praying for knowledge. So it's a combination of jnana, which of course Vedas is full of jnana, but at the same time it's an invocation or a prayer to the uh, Savita Devata or sun who symbolizes knowledge, that, oh Lord, illumine my intellect or uh, remove the darkness of ignorance by your bright light. So that prayer can be termed as bhakti, and the knowledge part is jnana.
Oh,
And Gayatri Mantra is to be meditated upon. So it is Raj Yoga also.
Mhm.
And you do Sandhya Vandana, so it Karma Yoga comes, you have to do it regularly. Gayatri was part of our
yeah.
culture. But unfortunately, historically, I don't know why it was restricted to Brahmins and boys. Why are not girls should have the opportunity to repeat at the same age, both girls and boys. I mean, at that age, you along with academic education, the idea was our culture, spiritual culture, should be given at a very young age.
Mm.
So the Gayatri helps you to develop wisdom, buddhi, along with the intellectual skill sets that you develop as a result of secular education.
Thank you, Swamiji. Amazing explanation. Thank you. You have a question?
Swamiji, I have a follow-up question for the Gayatri Mantra.
Yes.
So I was just thinking that when you started explaining it, I felt like, could the Gayatri, instead of the sun god, would the sun god be a symbol of ourself? Or is it something I'm stretching it? Like, I'm just thinking that when you explained it, I almost felt like, are we praying to ourselves to get illumined so we can become
Yes.
knowledgeable,
Yes.
jnana?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Now, I didn't discuss because we were running short of time. The meditation, all the different techniques of meditation, if you compare all the techniques developed within Hinduism, Buddhism, and can broadly be divided into three types of meditation. One is the subjective meditation, the self, like Ramana Maharshi. They all said you focus on the self, the subject, because subject is very important. Who is the one who is leading this life, thinking about spirituality? So the self comes into question every time we think of something. The self comes. So what is this self? So that is known as subjective meditation, which is also what Gayatri is. Then we have objective meditation. Say you are meditating on the sun god, which is a symbol of light. But you see, it is known as objective meditation, or you meditate on Ganesha, you meditate on Shiva, some form of God which you like. Apparently, it is an object, but you see, all meditation techniques, you are asked to uh, meditate on the form of the Lord in the center of the heart, spiritual heart. You take any uh, tradition in India, everybody will ask you to meditate in the heart. So it is trying to combine the object on which you are meditating and the subject, which is the subject of which is the self. So the self, the universal self, has unfortunately contracted, and we are thinking of ourselves as Jiva. So we bring the Shiva or the Lord outside, the infinite self in our heart, and try to imagine and meditate on him in the heart. So this is the idea behind Gayatri. Whether you meditate on the sun outside, the light of the sun outside, but the illumination always occurs in the heart, that is the self within. So it is within. The transformation is always within. That is why in Bible also Jesus says the kingdom of God or the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of the spirit. It's not that for my father is in heaven. He is in the heart. Kingdom of God itself is within. The whole kingdom is within you. So this idea of subject and the object merging together to have one infinite reality is what Gayatri Mantra is all about.
Thank
And
you,
all,
Swami.
not just Gayatri, all the mantras have the same meaning.
Okay.
Gayatri is the universal mantra, but different traditions have reduced or shortened it using a Bij mantra and the name of Lord. But the meaning associated with each one of these mantras, say Om Namah Shivaya, Sri Ram Jai Ram, any name of Lord, the Lord, is the same thing. O Lord, please remove the darkness of ignorance in my heart and illumine my heart, which is the same as the meaning of the Gayatri.
Mhm.
So all mantras are same. Only the gods change, the Bija mantra changes. Some Buddhists have their own, Buddhists have their own mantra. So whatever be the nature of the mantra, the goal is the same, to illumine the hearts and remove all the ignorance that make us think that we are limited jivas when we are Shivas, or we are the Paramatma himself, or the Supreme Self.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah, namaste. It's okay.
Thank you.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.